Shalom all, Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah school at KosherTorah.com. Welcome everybody to our Wednesday night get-together here. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, and we will most likely be recording this. Yeah, I think so. And we'll post on our YouTube channel. So, welcome everybody. The topic that we're going to discuss tonight, I've called the secrets of the Third Temple. Now, the Third Temple is an important topic. It seems to be very popular today in eschatological circles because everybody believes that we're living in the end times and doom and gloom is coming and Mashiach is coming and all the rest of this stuff. Well, I hate to be the party pooper here to tell you that most of what people believe today in both Jewish, Christian, and I might add probably Islamic sources is mostly based on mythology and a misunderstanding of ancient texts, both Jewish and otherwise, rather than what they think it is. And we're going to review some of those ideas right now. And I'm going to try to set the record straight for anybody who's willing to listen. Now, I have to admit that I'm rather pessimistic that anybody is going to listen, but still going to do the best I can. Now, just a little putting ourselves in a little context here. This is the in the Jewish tradition, the week coming up to the commemoration of the fast day of Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, which again commemorates the destruction of the temples in Jerusalem, which by maybe historical coincidence were both destroyed on the same day. The first one in 586 BCE by the Babylonians, the second one in 68 CE by the Romans. Now, what's the big deal about the temple? Everybody wants the temple to be rebuilt, they say. Yes, we have to have a temple rebuilt, right? So this way the Messiah can come and the world can change. So we have to do everything we can to build a temple. Oh, really? You think so? Yeah. It's a terrible thing that the temples were destroyed, right? Were they really? Were they really such a, terrible thing? Why did God allow it? See, here's a big problem with regards to understanding, if you will, religion, theology. All right? It's a point of human arrogance. And we see this in the hands, or I should say in the minds of the psychology, of any and all kinds of religious extremists, regardless of their religion. Today, people want to all complain and yell and scream about Islamic extremism. Well, Islamic extremism didn't just pop out of the air from nowhere. 1,000 years ago, in the days of the Crusades, there was Christian extremism. 1,000 years before that, with the time of the destruction of the Second Temple, the days of the Romans, it was Jewish extremism. Extremism is a psychological aberration, in my opinion, a mental illness that permeates in the minds of religious people who get frustrated when their religious, I have to call it mythology, doesn't coincide with the reality of the world, and therefore it leads them to such positions of absolute frustration and anger that it bubbles over into the forms of, again, psychological extremism and expressing itself into the point of physical, political, social violence. All right, again, but I think that if you speak with most people in the mental health profession, they'll agree with this because this is just the truth of it. So what's the big deal here? What is the big underlying problem? We believe in all of our religions that believe in a God, all right? Not in this universal mind consciousness, but we have this concept of a personalized God, which, in all due respect, isn't exactly what our Torah teaches. Remember from the second of the 10 commandments, right? No face upon God. The name Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh is even forbidden to pronounce. God's not a little old man with a white beard sitting on a cloud somewhere, right? That really looks good in the Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo, but that's not the truth of things. You can call God a spirit, you can call God the universal mind, the sentient consciousness. You go into the actual understanding of the name Yud, He, Vav, and He, right? It means the active mind, the active being of the universe. It completely transcends any concept of personality or personability. Even though, at the most fundamental level, we still refer to God in Hebrew, they translate it in the male tense called God a he, gives it some kind of a personality kind of thing. The rabbinic tradition, of course, elaborates on this, simply follow in an old tradition that the sages teach, that the Torah speaks in the language of people, of humanity. In other words, the Torah was written in its present form to communicate with the people of the time and the day in a language that they understood, or otherwise the Torah wouldn't have made sense to anybody. But a point that's made in the Zohar, and you can believe the Zohar is written by this 2nd century sage Shimon Bar Yochai, which I don't, or the 13th sage group of Kabbalists under Moshe de Leon, which is probably more accurate. Doesn't matter who wrote the Zohar, right? Nowhere does this anywhere say the Zohar comes from heaven. Nothing comes from heaven, right? The Torah came from heaven. Everything rabbinic comes from us. You got to remember that. Big difference. Rabbis are the first ones to signify the difference between what we call a deoraita and a derabanan. Torah comes from God. Rabbinic stuff comes from us. All right? Major difference. Remember the famous pasuk? Shemaim Shemaim LaHashem, va'aretz natar lebnei Adam. The heavens, they belong to God. The earth, he gave to us human beings. So everything that happens here deals with us. We're in charge, right? We've dealt with this in previous classes, the very famous example that the Gemara gives of the argument between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Hoshua, where in which they were arguing over a point of halacha, and Rabbi Hoshua made the very classic statement, Lo b'shemaim hi, the Torah is not in heaven. We decide things here on earth. So when God wants to speak to us, he has to speak in our language. Now, why is this important? What does this all have to do with the temple and everything else? People make the terrible mistake. The extremists make the terrible mistake. God needs us to act for him. Yeah, that's right. We're the hands of God. We're God's police. And therefore, we're going to punish those who disagree with God. Who disagrees with God? Well, we're interpreting the word of God because we know what God really means. We really know what God says. And if you don't agree, and you're against God, then we're going to get you. That's the fundamentalist mentality. That's the extremist mentality. Yeah, that's mental illness. That's really crazy stuff. Okay? But how many people believe that? Let me tell you something. In our faith, we believe God is omniscient, right? God's got all this power. God is everywhere, everything. And if God doesn't like something, let me tell you something. He can send down that mighty lightning bolt from heaven, and boom, you're toast. You think God needs you? Needs me? Really? You and I are so important in God's plan? We're the hand of God. Really? Who said so? Well, I could show you in this verse and that verse and this and that. No. Let me just tell you the truth. God can do whatever God wants to do. God doesn't need you. God doesn't need me. We don't exist because God needs us or anything else. We exist as children, learning to grow up and mature and become spiritual adults. So in that respect, we're parents, those of us who are older, right? Do we need to endow our children with certain levels of responsibility, which we darn well know they can't handle? Really? If you have a 3 or 4-year-old child, are you going to give them a loaded gun and tell them, guard the house? Really? No, you're not. Pray God you don't do anything crazy like that. That's not any statement against guns or anything like the kind. We're very big in supporting on proper, responsible self-defense issues here, but that's not a topic for tonight. Getting back to God. The universe. The universe is pretty much under control. God knows what he's doing. All right? Everything is under control, whether you and I like it or not. You can look out there and say, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. I don't like the way things are. Look at all this. This group I disagree with, and that group I disagree with, and this group is destroying things, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. God's in control, not you, not me. Doesn't matter what you like. Doesn't matter what I like. Everything is in higher hands, just like it says, remember, Bible, Torah, prophecy, Isaiah 55, God's thoughts are higher than our thoughts. God's ways are higher than our ways. You don't know what God is doing. I don't know what God is doing. All I can tell you is this. I'm a little child. We're all little children. God has given us children's things that as children we can handle. The Torah speaks in the language of humanity, of man. And we are at this time, using another biblical metaphor, subject to what's called the tree of knowledge, good and evil. Remember? Apple or a whatever, all the different, the grapes, all the different types of fruits that it could have possibly been, just symbol. And all the references to the different fruits are all symbolic. Okay? What it means is, mentally speaking, no mind is perfectly clear. No one has pure doctrine. No one has pure theology. All we have is the experience of the heart. That's why if you look in the Torah, I remember Shema Yisrael, our famous everyday prayer. These words, let's go back a pasuk. You shall love Hashem your God with all your mind, right? All your thoughts. Oh, no, it doesn't say that now, does it? No, it says all your heart, all your soul. That's right. Yeah, I remember that. And then it says, and these words which I command you this day shall be upon your thoughts. Oh, no, it doesn't say that either, does it? No, it says on your heart. You see, God knows that the intellect of the human species right now, like a child, isn't so clear. That's why God judges the heart. And that's why God gave this earth to us, so that we can cultivate and strengthen the human heart. Meaning, our feelings, our compassion, our understandings of all of life, and to work in harmony together. God knew very well when the Torah was given way back when, Mount Sinai. People didn't understand this stuff. So things had to be fed to them, little by little. Now, Tisha B'Av, the ninth of Av, according to our traditions, the first of the major national tragedies that happened on this day, it's recorded in the Bible, with the story of the 12 spies who came back touring the land of Canaan and brought back a terrifying report. And the people were petrified, terrified to go forward. Now, go back into your biblical stories. And previous to this, you had the sin of the golden calf. Remember, sin of the golden calf? Go see the Cecil B. DeMille version of the Ten Commandments starring Charlton Heston. Oh, I love that movie. It's the greatest comedy of them all. It's so fascinating. I always enjoy watching it. But anyway, story. The point of the story is that the people made a mistake in their intellect and made the symbol of a golden calf to represent God. No, there wasn't another God that they made. It was to represent Hashem, the God of Israel. It was a mistake of the intellect. God got really ticked off at them, but forgave them. Right? All right, we'll make peace. But later, when it came to the sin of the spies, that was a sin of the heart. That's because they had fear. And there was an old lesson that they learned, God learned. You can take the people out of Egypt, but you couldn't take Egypt out of the people. And a whole generation had to die because psychologically, emotionally, they couldn't handle freedom. That was the big problem. And a whole new generation pop up. So Torah has to deal with people where they are at. And a point that's made very clear by the famous sage Maimonides, it's written in his Guide to the Perplexed, a terrible, terrible secret. All right? Some of you aren't going to be able to handle this well, but, remember the old saying, you can't handle the truth. Well, here's one of those truths you may not be able to handle. Do you really think God needs the blood of animals? Really? What for? Well, there's soul in the blood, and there's a psychic energy exchange and all that. Yeah. I know all that Kabbalah stuff, right? I write books on this stuff. I talk all about energy. I understand energy. You think God needs that? You think the universe actually needs that? You think that somehow, if you or I mess up something energetically in the universe, we can substitute it with what? The energy of an animal? Really? You obviously don't have a very mature understanding of energetic interactions if you think so. Well, what does mysticism say and the Kabbalah say? the Kabbalah, it says a lot of things. But with the Kabbalah, if you remember the Zohar was originally called the Midrash of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. What is a Midrash? Embellished teachings, moralistic teachings, symbolic teachings, poetic teachings, not literal fact. Never should a Midrash, anything in the Zohar, be taken literally. You better start understanding that if you ever want to really progress in a true and authentic understanding of Kabbalah. Right? You don't go to the Kabbalah in a rational understanding of it, you'll never understand it. If you try to look at poetry as prose, you will never understand it. Now, according to Rambam, it's one of those terrible truths. We didn't need animal sacrifices. God didn't need animal sacrifices. But a long, long time ago in a culture far, far away, people coming out of Egypt, that was the only religious expression that they ever understood. It was the only religious expression that they ever knew. And therefore, being that Torah speaks in the language of human beings, an animal sacrificial system was established, but exclusivity to God, as opposed to all the different entities out there, as a stepping stone progression towards spiritual evolution so that we can evolve beyond that. And that is why the temple was allowed to be destroyed, first by the Babylonians and later by the Romans. We don't need the restoration of animal sacrifices for any spiritual, mystical content whatsoever. We have evolved beyond it. We have grown beyond it. And yet everyone's going to say, well, the third temple has to come. Messiah is coming. Third temple. Let's talk about the third temple. Let's look at it from the prophecy in the book of Ezekiel. Let's look what the Talmud says, rationalistic Judaism, and even what the Zohar says, Kabbalistic Judaism, mystical Judaism. Number one, let's start with Ezekiel. You can go on Ezekiel chapters 44 and the later parts of the book. You can read all these different profound descriptions of this beautiful temple that Ezekiel saw was to be built. But you're missing the point. Ezekiel makes it very, very, very clear that what he saw was in a vision. Remember vision language? Vision language is never to be interpreted literally. Vision language is a symbolic metaphor, like a dream. Not only is that psychology, that is the fundamentals of the Torah. Look at the dreams of Pharaoh, Joseph, Nebuchadnezzar. All of these things are symbolism. And therefore the visions of Ezekiel were equal symbolism. Ezekiel is seeing his famous Merkabah chariot, and I discuss this in my classes that I give to my students here at our KosherTorah school. Symbolism. All the vision of the third temple was symbolism, not literal. So for those who want to interpret it literally, that some physical edifice is going to be, in quote, built, well, that's not what is being taught. And to interpret in that way goes against the fundamental fabric of what the texts historically and literally mean. So you cannot point to Ezekiel's temple and say, aha, that's the proof that this big building has to be built. Okay? There are many people today in Israel, of the extremist factions, who are adamant to build a third temple. And there are people who are starting to do this. In spite of the fact they are in fundamental and comprehensive violation of Jewish law, Torah law, halakha, in doing so. There's those who want to say, let's offer a Passover sacrifice today. We don't need a temple to do that either. You can't according to the law. Well, why not? Well, according to the law, in order to offer sacrifice, in order to build a temple, in order to build vessels for the temple, one thing is a prerequisite, absolute. You must be in a state of ritual purity. Tahara, that's the word, in accordance to biblical law. And today, it is impossible to meet the biblical criteria of ritual purity, tahara. And therefore, it is fundamentally impossible for anybody to offer a kosher sacrifice, to build any part of a holy temple, or anything of the kind. And people are going to sit and try to argue back and forth with all the definitions of the halakha. You know something? You're playing games. You're playing political games. Dangerous ones at that. That's not the way it works. And you can say whatever you want, and you can do whatever you want. Remember, it's our world. We're going to screw things up royally because we're not paying attention to the real fundamentals of things. We've outgrown a certain past that we no longer need. Well, what exactly am I saying? Is there going to be a third temple? That's a good question. The answer would be yes, there will be a third temple. But what exactly is it going to be? It's going to be a building of bricks? I don't know. The Talmud, remember good old rationalist Judaism, offers a very profound statement that says that the third temple is going to descend from heaven ready built. The Zohar, Kabbalistic mystical Judaism, says the same thing, that some type of, in quote, edifice is going to come fully built and land on the Temple Mount. Is that to be interpreted literally? Is some big edifice coming from the skies? Is that the landing of a mothership UFO? Is that some kind of an invasion from outer space or a parallel world? Well, if we were to interpret that literally, maybe it will be. Maybe it will. I guess we'll find out if and when the time comes. But there are other alternative understandings. Even Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, who was one of the great Ashkenazi Kabbalists in his book Nefesh HaChaim, writes, what exactly is the Beit HaMikdash? We are. All of us together are human souls. We together create a holy temple. What is a holy temple? It's a building of bricks, isn't it? It's the place where God dwells. Well, we got to build the physical building, right? You got to build a holy of holies, and God's going to come and dwell in there. And I'm going to be able to go there, and then we're going to be able to put a camera, and we're going to be able to see this glowing light, and there's God. Wow, how cool. And then magic is going to happen. Poof. And all of a sudden, everybody's going to sing Kumbaya. We're going to love one another, and everything's going to be hunky-dory. You guys might have been, I don't know what you've been drinking or smoking or shooting or doing whatever, if you have such a fantasaical idea. That doesn't happen. It's never happened, never will happen. That is, again, one of these delusional pie-in-the-sky dreams that fundamentalist extremists have. And I'm sorry, but I got to tell you the truth. Yes, the third temple is coming. But you know what that third temple is? We are. A temple is meant to be the domain in which God exists, where in which God's presence can be embraced, experienced, and seen. That's us. We are the third temple. When we can rise in what's called Messianic consciousness, like it says in the prophet Jeremiah, the real, in quote, new covenant, what the Baal Shem Tov taught about having the spark of Mashiach inside each and every one of us. When we, like what Rambam writes in the Moreh Nebuchim for that matter, when we can evolve human consciousness to the point that we can recognize the divine within us and the divine outside of us as being one and the same, then indeed we will have achieved what's called the Messianic consciousness. Kabbalah speak, that's when the Nefesh soul can rise up to the level of the Neshama soul and merges. This is what we call Yehud. In the Kabbalah language, this is what we call the Aliyat of the Rafach, or the Tikkun of the Ben. We have all these different types of symbolisms to describe this ascent of human consciousness, which therefore transcends and transforms the world. So for all of those of you who are yelling, we want Mashiach now, that's all well and good. But stop looking for your Mashiach out there. Stop looking for your Mighty Mouse Messiah to come down on a horse from heaven. Stop thinking that you can build a building. You're going to slaughter poor innocent animals, thinking somehow, somewhere, you got a God who, is in the blood. Really? I thought Count Dracula was into blood. Right? We don't need this. We've evolved beyond that. Am I saying that when Mashiach comes, we're not going to need any sacrifices of that nature? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Especially from a Kabbalah point of view. We say that the whole purpose of sacrifice was for the sake of, in quote, tikkun, rectification, realignment of worlds. When Mashiach comes, the world's already realigned. There's nothing more to realign. No more need. So for those of you who want to know the secrets of this third temple, don't go looking for a literal interpretation of Ezekiel. That is not accurate in the light of prophecy. Don't go thinking that because Maimonides says that we're supposed to build a temple, that's exactly what we're supposed to do. Maimonides is outlining ideas and concepts. He is not giving us a plan for action. One of the things Maimonides says has to occur is the restoration of prophecy. Well, with all due respect, our original name here at the KosherTorah School, for those of you who've been with us many years, you might remember, was Yeshivat B'nai Nevi'im, based upon the famous words of the sage Hillel, Masechet Pesachim in the Gemara, where it says, Hinach lahem Yisrael, give it to Israel, even though we're not prophets, we're their children. Meaning we try to cultivate the spiritual concepts, the spiritual mind, to expand consciousness, to become psychic, intuitive, telepathic, and clairvoyant human beings. That's what Maimonides writes about. It's the evolved human mind. Sound any of this? Those of you familiar maybe with Eastern mysticism, Buddhism, Hinduism, teach this exact same lesson. Somehow, somewhere, I don't know if there's a historical connection that connected the two, but I'll tell you they teach pretty much the same thing. For those of you who've ever really, really gone into the psychology of the Bhagavad Gita, you understand the relationship of the Atman and the Brahmin. You understand the relationship in the Kabbalah between the Malchut and the Keter. They're really talking about the same thing, even though they're using different languages. And I know a lot of people don't like me quoting all these other types of different religions. Well, you got to stop that and learn what our sages said, right in the Pirkei Avot. Ezehu Hacham, who is wise, Halamen Mikol Adam. I want to learn from everybody. So you'll forgive me that I follow Judaism, because I'm a rabbi, that's what I do. And I learn from everyone. And I am going to read the Christian Bible, and I'm going to read the Hindu scriptures, and I'm going to read the Buddhist scriptures, and I'm going to read the Islamic and the shamanistic and the Native Americans and every other one, because I'm looking for something. I'm looking for that line of continuity, that yichud, which connects us all, because that's the unity that we seek. That's that Messianic spirit which binds us. Yeah, I'm building a Beit HaMikdash. Not with physical bricks, not with slaughtering animals, but with the real essence of the light and the truth, what Torah is supposed to be, what it's always meant to be. Get on the bandwagon with this, folks, because this is what the Torah is all about. So here we are now. This is the week where we commemorate the destruction of the temples. You have all kinds of traditions and observances at all different levels. I'm not going to get into the observances and the levels because there's so many different traditions. And as my place as a rabbi on the internet, it's not to tell any individual in a specific community what or how to observe whatever traditions. If you are in a Torah observant community that observes traditions, you follow your local rabbi. You follow your local community. Doesn't matter if he's Ashkenazi, Sephardi, whatever, right? If you're a member of a community, you fit into that community because you've chosen to be there. You don't want to be there and leave. But if you're there, you fit in, you follow along. Torah, not in heaven, on earth, fit in and be appropriate. That's how you observe. What you should be thinking about up here isn't mourning and crying over the loss of a brick and mortar building from thousands and thousands of years ago. Oh, poor Jerusalem, it's all destroyed. Really? How do you ever see Jerusalem today? Jerusalem today is bigger and better than it's ever been in its entire history. It is more populated than it's ever been in its entire history. There's nothing to cry about, nothing to mourn about. Jerusalem's rebuilt, done, period, end of story. And the proof, probably in a dozen live cams that they got all throughout the city. So then why are we fasting on this 9th of Av? Well, we're commemorating the temple hasn't been built yet. Well, for those of you who are in the servant community and you want a reason for fasting, I'm going to give it to you. Don't cry over the past. The past is done. The past is gone. All right? Past, it's kind of like an old girlfriend, right? From a guy's point of view. You love them. They were your whole world. But they're gone. There's nothing you can do other than move on. So you move on. What else? What choice do you have? That's it. There's a dramatic pause there for you to let that sink in. But you want to know what you fast about on Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, if you're going to fast? Don't cry over the past. Take a look at the present. Take a look at where we're at today. Look at all the religious fundamentalism, the extremism, the mistaken ideas, all the wrong reasons that lead to all the wrong actions and mess up things. You want to fast, you want something reason to mourn? Mourn that. What do you do about it? You see, I think with this guy mentality, males, we think, something broken, you fix it. That's the way the male mind works. So if I see something that's broken, right, something we're mourning over, how do you fix it? How do we make things better? Making ourselves better. Building a third temple. Not with brick and mortar, but with human souls. You want to fast for the day because it'll help focus your mind? Go for it. You want to say all the ritual prayers, the kinot? Go for it. But remember what it's all about. Stop looking for this building to come, ready built from heaven. Oh, it's coming. But the ready built building from heaven is a symbolic metaphor for evolved human souls. Some maybe UFO that's going to come down and land on the Temple Mount. Maybe that'll happen too. Who knows? Right? I don't really have that close personal connection with ET. In spite of my relationship with the program Ancient Aliens, love to chat with those guys. They're all the sweetest people in Prometheus Productions. I love them. But I don't see flying saucers, little gray guys that are gray, grays, whatever. They don't come hanging out with me. I've never been abducted, not by those big, beautiful blonde aliens from the Pleiades or the little gray guys. People see things in their minds. I'm sure there's something to it. We're not going to get there right now. That's another topic. You can read my book, Aliens, Angels, and Demons. I cover that material in great detail there. And for those of you who are spooked out by that, my book, Protection from Evil, pretty much out of print right now. The ebook copy is still available on Amazon for those who want it. But anyway, getting back to my point. When it comes to actually wanting to contribute to the coming of Mashiach, like the Baal Shem Tov taught, a very profound teaching, the spark of the Messiah is in each and every one of us. Don't go arguing, well, the Mashiach is Al-Mahdi, or Mashiach is Yeshu Jesus, or Mashiach is Hamashiach and Jew. What are you talking about? Why are you looking at all these external facades? Get to the essence of what it means. Like it says in Yirmiyahu, the prophet Jeremiah, when he spoke about the original, the real new Brit Hadashah, not the one that the Christians believe that they have, but the real one, where it says, the name of God, the truth of God will be etched on the human heart. No longer will anyone have to say, no, God, for they'll all know me. Oh, should be the day. We rabbis will be out of a job. Thank God, finally do something else with my life instead of yelling and screaming here. But until that day comes, sometimes you have to yell and scream. Why? Because trying to all wake up. Trying to get God inside here, to recognize within. Big secret about the Maaseh Merkavah teachings, which of course is the foundation of experiential prophetic Kabbalah, which is what we teach here, the Ascent School of Kabbalah. That's what our KosherTorah school is all about. Go to my front page in KosherTorah.com. Look at the courses that I offer. Masechet Atzilut, the Sha'arei Kedusha. Go, you click on the PDFs and you'll see the syllabuses of all the different courses and what I teach in them. See from the original sources yourselves. I don't ever want anyone to take my word for anything. All right? I'm not a leader. I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. My job is to give you information so that you can learn and experience for yourselves, and that'll lead you to your own personal practices. Check these courses out. Right on my front page. Go click, 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 and you'll see them. And learn. So that when we want to talk about actual contributions to make our world better, make ourselves better, to bring Mashiach, build a temple, we recognize what all these symbolic metaphors mean. And we put these symbolic metaphors into a practical, realistic application, which we can then contribute, building unity, working together, and in harmony, making a difference in the world. You want to bring Mashiach? That's where Mashiach comes. You want something to cry and mourn about on Tisha B'Av? Cry and mourn that we're not doing this. Cry and mourn about all these religious extremists out there, each one worse than the second, who interprets the symbolic as literal and continues a perpetual cycle of misunderstanding, which leads over and over and over again to continued problems and failure. It all boils down to the emotional inability in the human heart to accept with courage the truth. It started way back when with the spies, back in the book of Numbers there where it's recorded. And that psychological component has continued to this very day. So, for those of you who study Kabbalah, right? We always speak of the tikkun of the partsufim, the rectification of the sclerotic faces. We always talk about unifying what's called Za and Nok, Ma and Ben, Tiferet and Malchut, Kucha Berecho Shchinte. Those of you who follow the metaphors, that's a good list. Inner, outer, higher, lower. Nefesh, level of soul. Neshama, level of soul. Raising things up. Expanding your consciousness to become sensitive to and aware of the unity which unites us all. So stop going around pointing your fingers. This one's bad. That one's wrong. Let's go get this one because they're not doing what God wants. And I'm going to be God's policeman. You're not God's policeman. If you think you are, you're touched in the head. All right? Yeah. I believe that's to be an accurate, most likely definable by a DSM, whichever number they're up to now, mental illness. Yeah, it's a big problem. It really, really is. This is not what our Torah is all about. This is not Kabbalistic Judaism. This is not Talmudic Judaism. This is not biblical Judaism. All three form, allow me to use the word, a trinity of unity. Biblical, rabbinic, mystical, Kabbalistic, all the same. Meaning, the greatness of our humanity. Notice I didn't say Jews or Israel, humanity. It's all of us together. Each and every one of us has the ability to emotionally, psychologically rise above the shackles of what goes on in our twisted little minds. Everybody has confusions in the head. I do, we all do. It's part of life, right? I can't rely upon the limitations of my intellect. I don't have all the data. I have many people in my lives who ask me, what are we going to do tomorrow? Or what are your plans for next week? And I answer them, I say, I don't know. I don't have enough information that I can make an accurate plan. There's always things happening, and I can't know these things in advance. I guess I'm not that psychic. I'm not that clairvoyant that I see all the futures all at once. I live here and now. Here and now I deal with. Here and now I think I can handle pretty well. So today I do what needs to be done here and now. And that builds, symbolically speaking, one stone of the true Beit HaMikdash. And what I do then tomorrow in the here and now then, that's the second stone. You're doing the same thing. So when you're building and you're doing right in your life, and I'm doing right in my life, and more people can do right in all of our lives. Doesn't matter what religion you are, doesn't matter where you are in the world, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what your past is. What matters is the here and the now. We build together. This is how we build a Beit HaMikdash. Not trying to go back into the past to models and modalities which are gone in ancient history. We don't need to repeat past mistakes. What we need is to move forward into the future and to observe the proper forms of Torah and mitzvot for the present as we build the future. Because if we don't get things right today, we'll have more things to mourn about tomorrow. There'll be other reasons to cry and wail and scream. And we're creating those things right now by not doing what's right here and now. So, male mentality, fix it. Right now. Start building the Beit HaMikdash. That's right. Not with brick, not with mortar, not with trying to create all kinds of vessels. No. You be the Beit HaMikdash. Just like Reb Chaim Volozhin writes in the Nefesh HaChaim. You follow the symbolic pattern that was outlined in the Torah tradition. You be the menorah to shine the light. You be an altar of sacrifice. What does that mean? That I surrender my personal desires and what I want for the greater good. I might want to sit back, kick my feet up, and tell the world to go, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I give a damn. I'm sorry. I don't know why I give a damn. I just do it. It's the way I am. I care. And so therefore I tell the truth. And a lot of people might not like what I'm saying. And a lot of people might argue with what I'm saying. Now, if we're going to argue from an academic point of view, that's all well and good. That's the beautiful thing about our rabbinic tradition. You sit and you debate even heatedly about all kinds of ideas and concepts. And then at the end of the day, you're walking arm in arm and you're going to go out and do whatever you're going to do, right? Because it's never taken personally. Anyone ever been to a real yeshiva? You'll see very heated debates and understanding things. That's only done to sharpen the mind. It's not done to fight and be antagonistic and to argue and to have hard feelings or bitter feelings. Nothing of the kind. It creates camaraderie because you're sharpening the mind. So if we want to debate within that context, all well and good. I welcome that. But if you're going to argue, yell, and scream and insult, which is so popular today, don't waste my time. Don't get me involved. Not interested. I will not be brought down like that. And for you to go on that path, that's the way of children. That's like being, the bully out in the schoolyard. Not going to do that. Our ways to build unity, harmony, like we say in our prayers, L'Shem Yehud Kudsha B'Richu U'Shechinte, for the sake of the unity, the holy and blessed be in the Shekhinah. So, practically speaking, during this time of the commemoration of the destructions of the temple, remember what it's really all about. For those of you in the Torah observant communities who are going to observe the fast, remember what this time is all about. Follow the rituals, do what your community's traditions are, but remember what this is all about. You can make a difference. You make a difference right here. You make a difference right now. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter what kind of job you have. Doesn't matter what you do. You can be a salesperson in your store. You can be working any kind of job that you do. Doesn't matter. Everything that you do contributes. Because when you have that positive mind, you have positive action. When you have positive mind combined with positive action through your positive heart, you make a difference. And it goes and ripples out into the collective. It makes a difference. And when you sense that, and you feel that, and you know that, you and I are building a Beit HaMikdash. And when the heart is open like that, symbolically, and only symbolically speaking, that is the washing in the ashes of the red heifer. Okay, symbolically now, not literal. Don't go around trying to go up to the Temple Mountain and start building stuff because you have a good heart. Talking symbolism, not literalism. Two different things. But don't underestimate the symbolism. It's the beauty of the heart that makes everything happen. Remember this. And in the wise words of the great sage Hillel, and on that note I'll conclude, Zil Gamar. Go out and do it. God be willing. I'm your host, Ariel Tzadok from our Kosher Torah School, KosherTorah.com. Thank you again for listening. Check out our courses online. Join our fan page here at Facebook. Check out everything else that we have. God be willing, I'll see you all in our next class. Take care. For those of you who will be fasting, Sam Kal. Have an easy fast. Shalom all. See you next time.